It has been well over 4 or 5 months since I have made my last YouTube video. And in those 4 or 5 months, there has been a lot of stuff that has gone down in the WWE that I have not really been able to talk about. So today, in this video, we are going to be ranking all of the summer pay-per-views and pay-per-views that has happened since WrestleMania 41, and we're going to rank them from worst to best. Please remember, this video is basically just me giving my own opinion, so if you guys really liked one of the pay-per-views that I really did not enjoy, there's no reason to take it to heart. Everybody is entitled to have their own opinion. So let's get started. We also will not be including any Saturday night main events. So with that being said, let's get started. And coming in at dead last, the pay-per-view I enjoy the least out of all of them is number 6, Wrestlepalooza. As many of you know, Wrestlepalooza was WWE's debut on ESPN, and it did not really go the exact way WWE wanted things to go. ESPN ended up rating it a C, giving it a pretty bad review, and honestly, it was well-deserved for a pretty bad review because the pay-per-view itself just was not good. The main match that was being headlined and advertised for the show was John Cena versus Brock Lesnar one last time. Okay, he got everybody excited. You know, we're getting John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Some people were excited, some people weren't. I was actually kind of excited about it. I was hoping that it was going to be different than SummerSlam 2014. I was hoping that we were going to get a classic between these two titans that have both not faced each other in well over a decade. And what we ended up getting was a 4-minute shortened version of the SummerSlam 2014 match between Brock Lesnar and John Cena. It was very dull, very bland. Brock Lesnar pretty much stayed on top the entire time. Hit John Cena with about 6 or 7 F5s to pick up the victory in about 5 minutes. Let's just say I was very disappointed, as well a lot of other people were that were expecting this to be a better match than the one we got in 2014. And I would even go as far to say the 2014 one was better than this one that we got this year. Not only was the John Cena versus Brock Lesnar match pretty disappointing, but the Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Championship was also pretty disappointing. Was really hoping for a pretty good match between them. I was really wanting Drew to take the title from Cody. With all the advertisement that Triple H was saying, you know, expect big surprises, expect big shocks, twists, turns at this event. Really nothing kind of shocked, twisted, or turned in a good way at all. Cody Rhodes beat Drew McIntyre in probably about a 15, maybe 13-minute match, honestly. I really thought Drew had it at one point, but then they did an angle where he went to go Claymore Cody through the announcer's table like he did on SmackDown weeks prior, and Drew ended up injuring his leg, injuring as in kayfabe injuring, and pretty much that costed him the match. So, yeah, that match alone was also dull. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar also dull. So you had a really bad opener, and then you also had a really bad main event. In ring, I will say Cody versus Drew was definitely better than John Cena versus Brock, which you would expect because Cody and Drew, I would say, are just, I wouldn't say are better workers, but are more technical pro wrestlers. Other than that, really, the card was kind of filled with, there was a couple good things about it. There was the Usos versus the Vision. You know, the Usos kind of teaming up for the first time in probably about 3 or, I'd say probably like 2 or 3 years. Was kind of cool. The match itself was kind of you know, you had LA Knight special guest refereeing to tie in with the whole Jey Uso and LA Knight storyline that's been going on for the past month now. It was an okay match. Jey Uso got busted open pretty bad. I didn't exactly see when he got busted open, but a lot of people said it was when he hit Bronson Reed or Braun Breaker with a chair to the back. And then I will say probably my favorite match of that pay-per-view, and the only good match of that pay-per-view I would say, was the mixed tag team match between the returning AJ Lee, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. And that match was fantastic. I thought AJ Lee really didn't show any ring rust, really didn't miss a beat. And I think both couples put on a great match. And obviously they had the right winners with AJ Lee, CM Punk winning. The win kind of came out of nowhere. I was not expecting AJ Lee to honestly make Becky Lynch tap out, but I believe it does open the door for a future storyline between Becky Lynch and AJ Lee for the women's Intercontinental title. So all in all, WrestlePalooza really was not that good of a pay-per-view. I would say the only saving grace of that pay-per-view was, again, the mixed tag team match. Another reason why there's been a lot of backlash towards WrestlePalooza is because that pay-per-view, if you did not own ESPN Plus previous to that, you had to pay $30 to watch it. And a lot of people feel like they didn't get their money worth. I was also one of those people who felt like I didn't get my money's worth. But you know what? We'll just have to see how the whole WWE and ESPN deal keeps playing out. I know, like I said, they got a horrible rating from ESPN, so I'm hoping it's going to make WWE step up their game. So now we're going to talk about number 5. Number 5 is going to be Money in the Bank. Now, Money in the Bank 2025 wasn't a horrible pay-per-view, was not on the levels of bad as WrestlePalooza was. There just was not a lot to be really, to really enjoy from Money in the Bank. I mean, yeah, they had a couple great ladder matches between the men and the women. The women winner was Naomi, and the men's Money in the Bank ladder match was Seth Rollins. Everybody kind of saw Seth Rollins and winning the Money in the Bank contract. We all kind of saw it coming once he was put into the match. He kind of seemed like the obvious choice. Naomi winning was a bit of a shock to people, but the main event of the night was Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus Logan Paul and John Cena. And I don't know hardly how I felt about the whole Logan Paul, John Cena teaming up. I mean, they kind of did good as a team, but then they also, at the end, they started showing a little bit of cracks in the team. Probably the highlight of that match was R-Truth, Ron Killings, returning after being released from the WWE. A lot of people did not expect that, and he got a huge pop when he came out and interrupted that match. Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso ended up winning. There were a lot of cool spots in the match, I would say, but really, this was like the third year in a row that they've main evented a Money in the Bank pay-per-view with some sort of tag team match. And I would like to say it would be nice to see something else main event Money in the Bank. Like, honestly, they could have had John Cena defend his title against somebody in like a ladder match. I thought that would have been cool. Or they could have had even Cody Rhodes fight John Cena again or whatever. I know there was some stuff that with Travis Scott that was supposed to happen that kind of fell apart in the past few months. And I heard it was supposed to culminate at that Money in the Bank pay-per-view. But really, with Travis backing out, The Rock backing out, they really couldn't take that storyline and take it to the full finish like they really wanted to. So with what they had, I feel like they did okay. But maybe, hopefully next year, we don't get a tag team match to main event Money in the Bank, which I believe Money in the Bank next year is going to be 2 nights, and it's going to be in New Orleans. So we will have to see on exactly what they have planned. Like I said, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match was good. Women's Money in the Bank ladder match was good. That's really all I can truly remember, just straight from the pay-per-view. So that's why it ranks in at number 5. And at the number 4 spot, we have Backlash. Backlash was honestly not a bad pay-per-view. It was a pretty solid pay-per-view. It was spearheaded and main evented by John Cena versus Randy Orton for one last time. I felt the story going into it was a little bit, not all there, kind of like just what Randy Orton and John Cena could do. I felt like they didn't really use their full potential on. I was hoping for more of a John Cena versus this Randy Orton, force, just in that big fight feel. And we kind of had that big fight feel, but honestly, it was because John Cena was in the middle of a not really good heel run, so they kind of had to work with what they had. But the match itself was quite fun. It felt like quite a long match. It was like 33 to 40 minutes, I would say. And it was just John Cena, Randy Orton, pulling out all the classics. Randy Orton hit so many darn RKOs on John Cena. John Cena hit so many AAs on Randy Orton. One was through a table. Randy AA John Cena through a table. It was just a pretty fun match all around the board. A lot of people were hoping Randy Orton was going to win, but I think a lot of people also knew that Randy Orton was not going to win, as we knew John Cena was going to continue on carrying the belt. I'm trying to remember if it had a kind of a iffy finish. I don't really know if John Cena exactly did a heel move kind of to finish the match. He probably did, probably busted him in the head with the title and hit him with an AA to pin him or something like that. But it was in Randy Orton's hometown, and he got a huge standing ovation, and the crowd, loved Randy Orton there. As they're going to love him really no matter where he goes now. I get they really couldn't turn Randy Orton heel because, I don't know. I mean, he's at a point in his career where you're going to love him either way, exactly how they were with Edge back in 2022. So they kind of just had to go with the flow. And with what they had, I think it was a pretty solid match. Another match on the pay-per-view is Penta versus Dom for the Intercontinental title. I was really hoping Penta was going to beat Dom for the Intercontinental title just because I really want to see Penta get a singles title in the WWE, but that did not happen. It was a pretty fun match, I will say. Another match was Pat McAfee versus Gunther. Very unnecessary of a match. They kind of built the story around Gunther being mean to Michael Cole and Pat McAfee not liking Gunther being mean to Michael Cole and trying to stand up for himself, and basically ended up just getting the crap beat out of him by Gunther. I don't really remember a point in the match where anybody thought Pat McAfee was going to win. I think there might have been one close call, but for the most part, it was pretty much a massacre by Gunther. An okay match. It really didn't need to happen. And then we had a fatal four-way for the United States title. It was Jacob Fatu, LA Knight, Damian Priest, and I believe Drew McIntyre. And that fatal four-way match was pretty good. You had the debut of JC Mateo, or, Jeff Cobb, whatever you want to call him. But you probably want to go with Jeff Cobb because JC Mateo is just kind of a ridiculous name. But, yeah, a good fatal four-way match. Kind of ended in a little bit of a BS way. Jacob Fatu ended up walking out with the belt, though, and would carry it all the way up until SummerSlam. So Backlash really was not that bad of a pay-per-view. I pretty much enjoyed it. I watched the whole show, and I was able to enjoy it most of the time. So, yeah. Coming in at number 3 is going to be Night of Champions. Now, Night of Champions took place in Saudi Arabia, and honestly, it was a pretty solid show. It was spearheaded and main evented by John Cena versus CM Punk one last time. Pretty much any John Cena match you're going to see on this video, it's for the last time because it is his last time fighting these people. It is his retirement tour. I will be making a different video reviewing and kind of going over the retirement tour as a whole, probably once it's over and maybe at some point before we get his retirement match. But John Cena versus CM Punk honestly was a really, really, really fun match. It very much felt like the Bloodline Rules match from WrestleMania 40 with all sorts of interferences and people coming out to help. And it was just a really well-crafted match and a good story between the two as well, with John Cena delivering his own type of pipe bomb and then CM Punk coming out as the doctor of Punkonomics was just hilarious on SmackDown before. And I feel like they really went out there and delivered a really good match. It was pretty much just John Cena versus Punk, like the good old days. They did all the old classics. There was a couple close calls, a couple close finishes where I really thought CM Punk was about to win the title, but no, John Cena came out on top with it. There was a spot in the match where this is kind of where we started to see John Cena start to really think about the fans and kind of be like, you know what, I don't really know if I'm doing this the right way or not. And he really thought to himself for a second on this one. And there was one point in the match where he was going to go hit CM Punk with the championship, but then all of a sudden he decided to just throw it down on the ground and said, nope, I'm doing it the right way. And ended up hitting him with an AA and pinning him for the win. I believe that's how the match finished. Other than that, on the pay-per-view, you had Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez in like a no-holds-barred match. And that, honestly, was probably one of my favorite matches of the year. These two women just beat the crap out of each other. Raquel Rodriguez powerbombed Rhea Ripley over the barricade through the announce table's hood. It looked like a pretty sick spot. And that was a really good match on that pay-per-view as well. And then you also had Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross, which we'll get into Karrion Kross in a whole other video. But it was an okay match. Really not. I was really hoping Karrion Kross would come out with the win, but WWE really did not want to push that guy and did not want to make his character succeed in the WWE, even though he was over as hell with all the fans. Everywhere he'd go, people were chanting, "We want Kross." Even at the end of SummerSlam, people were chanting, "We want Kross." So to not give Karrion Kross the win at Night of Champions, which we'll get into SummerSlam too here in a little bit, to not give him that win at Night of Champions kind of let everybody know where exactly they're doing with this guy. But like I said, underwhelming match between those two. Other than that, all the other matches on the pay-per-view, I would say, were pretty darn good. I'm trying to think just off the top of my head at what other matches there were on the pay-per-view. I know during the John Cena versus Punk match, we had a point where Seth Rollins comes out, about to cash in his Money in the Bank contract, and a ref is running down to the ring, and John Cena shoulder tackles the ref, and the ref goes flying, and he's like, no, arguing with Rollins, saying, why are you trying to cash in on my moment? And that's pretty much what led into the finish of the match. But all in all, Night of Champions was a pretty solid show, so that's why it's at the number 3 spot. Coming in at our second best pay-per-view after WrestleMania 41 is Clash in Paris. Clash in Paris, all I gotta say, was just an absolute blast of a show. This was the pay-per-view we had before WrestlePalooza, and honestly, if this would have been WWE's debut on ESPN, I think ESPN would have given it a B+ or an A+, because Clash in Paris was an amazing show. You had a really good and stacked card from top to bottom. So the opening of the show was Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns, Tribal Thief versus Tribal Chief. It was a great match. It took up about 40 minutes of the show, which I was very surprised. Roman Reigns won after a really, really good match between him and Bronson Reed. Really just kind of telling the story of Roman's a big guy, but Bronson Reed is also a really big guy. And if Reigns could really topple him, which he ended up doing. At the end of the match, Roman choked out Paul Heyman, got his shoes back, only to be speared through the announcer's table by Braun Breaker out of nowhere. And then Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed just beat the tar out of Roman Reigns. Left him being stretchered out, probably needing to go to the hospital. He was out for a long time after that. But honestly, like I said, it was a great opening to the show. It was a really enjoyable match between Bronson Reed and Roman Reigns. Then we got into our tag team championship match between the Wyatt Six and the Street Profits, which I thought was just a really, really good match. The crowd in Paris was just absolutely electric for anybody that came out to perform that night. The Wyatt Six and Street Profits put on a really, really fun and good tag team match. I honestly thought the Street Profits were going to win the match, but it honestly ended up going a different way, and the Wyatt Six ended up retaining due to interference from Nikki Cross, which from my understanding, I thought the Wyatt Six were a face team, but now I'm starting to understand that they're actually a heel team. So I don't really know when exactly they quote-unquote, turned heel, but they must be a heel team. But I don't really know what's next for the Street Profits. I know they're going to be fighting them again coming up soon because they just won a number 1 contenders match. So we'll have to see what happens after that match. After that match, it is very possible, if they lose, for Montez Ford to turn on Angelo Dawkins, or Angelo Dawkins to turn on Montez Ford, which they've kind of been building to in the past few weeks. Then, of course, we had John Cena versus Logan Paul on the show, which a lot of people were not really excited about John Cena versus Logan Paul. I myself was kind of excited because it's like, it's John Cena versus Logan Paul. It's not John Cena and Logan Paul teaming up in a tag team match. John Cena versus Logan Paul. And I'll say they put on a really, really good and fun match. It was just John Cena pulling out classic moves, pulling out code reds, pulling out European uppercuts that he learned from Cesaro, shouting out to Cesaro. I believe he did a Styles Clash even to Logan Paul. It honestly was just a fun and great match, and it ended in the right way with John Cena finally getting the win on Logan Paul. And just a really, really classic match. And then leads us into our main event, which was a fatal 4-way for the World Heavyweight Championship. It was LA Knight, Jey Uso, CM Punk, and Seth freaking Rollins. And that main event, fatal 4-way, was a really fast-paced main event. A lot of cool spots between all 4 guys. I feel like all 4 guys got their time to shine. And it came out with the right winner on top. A lot of people, I myself included, kind of wanted CM Punk to win, but I also kind of knew that he really wasn't going to win. So Seth Rollins ended up winning, but he won due to interference from a hooded figure, which turned out to be his wife, Becky Lynch, joining the Vision, low-blowing CM Punk. Rollins hits a curb stomp on CM Punk, onto the chair, and picked up the victory. A lot of people were underwhelmed by Becky Lynch joining the Vision. I think it makes perfect sense because, of course, it's his wife. Why would she not? And I think that kind of opened the door for AJ Lee's return, which we saw either a week or a couple weeks after. So, yeah, Clash in Paris, honestly, if you didn't get to watch it, I would say go back and rewatch it. It was honestly a really, really fun pay-per-view and a fun show to watch out. The crowd made the show, and the wrestlers that performed just did an amazing job. And I could tell they all had a blast performing in front of that electric crowd that was Paris. So now we're going to get into our number one. And our number one pay-per-view since WrestleMania 41, it's got to be SummerSlam. SummerSlam this year was the first time that it was a two-night event. It took up Saturday and a Sunday. And I will say, it was honestly, when they say it's the biggest party of the summer, it felt like the biggest party of the summer. I mean, where do I even start? We had great matches on the show. The card was absolutely freaking stacked. And the main events of both nights just completely stole the shows. So night one of SummerSlam kicked off with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, which was a really fun tag team match. Both teams really just showed why they're in the position that they are, and they had really, really good chemistry together. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso ended up coming out on top, and it was just a really fun match. And then after that match, we got into the repeat of Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross, which honestly, at this point, it was just so not overdone, but you knew what was going to happen, and you knew where Karrion Kross was headed. You almost had a feeling he was on his way out of the company. It was honestly just a worse version of Night of Champions match between the two. They went out there probably for about 6-7 minutes. Sami Zayn hit Karrion Kross with one freaking haluva kick, and that was it, 1, 2, 3, which honestly really disappointed me. I kind of just lost faith in WWE with the whole Karrion Kross situation after that match, and even Sami Zayn looked at Karrion Kross and said, "You're done," and I'm like, oh god, he's getting released. So, and that's exactly what happened. But yeah, that match was a little bit of a disappointment. And then you got into the tag team match between Jelly Roll, Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. And this match was honestly just kind of made out of freaking nowhere, because Jelly Roll wanted to have a match and they put it on the show. And they gave him a great partner in Randy Orton. Now, the build-up for the match, I will say, they did very well. They had both teams appear on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, even I think Jimmy Kimmel at least one time. And they did a lot of building for this match outside of WWE, and even did promos on SmackDown and everything like that. And I will say it was probably one of the better celebrity appearances that I've seen in the WWE. I mean, Jelly Roll seemed to fit right in the ring. He was on time with all of his moves. He helped Randy Orton out a good deal. He took a lot of bumps. He took an announcer's table bump from Logan Paul off the top rope, frog splash, straight through the announcer's table. They started bringing him out of the arena, but Randy's looking like, hey, I need help. And Jelly Roll, being the guy he is like, you know what? I'm hurt, but I'm going to get right back in the fight, climbed right back up onto the ring, and got himself right back in the match. As for the winners, I feel like having Drew and Logan Paul win the match was the right call, simply because just because you're a celebrity, you don't always need to win the match. And even Jelly Roll said that in a podcast himself. He's like, me losing leaves the door open for later opportunities. And I'm glad he sees it that way. And I think that's part of the reason as to why people are like, you know what, Jelly Roll, you are welcome back anytime you want. Because the guy can truly tell a story, and he can put on a good match. So hopefully we maybe down the line get some sort of a Jelly Roll match again. I would really appreciate that, and I know I would really like to see it. Another match that happened on night one was also Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill for the women's title. Pretty short and sweet match, but honestly, like I said, when I say short and sweet, I mean short and sweet. It was probably about 7-8 minutes long, but it was a really good competitive match between both women. Kind of had me on the edge of my seat. I was really wanting Jade Cargill to win, because I'm just kind of over this whole Tiffy time, but Tiffany Stratton ended up coming out with the victory. Kind of thought the match ended a little bit soon for the people that they had in it, but you know what? You can't always make every single match go 10-20 minutes long. And then we can get into our main event for the World Heavyweight Championship, which was Gunther versus CM Punk. And honestly, it was a freaking classic match. I mean, we knew it once we saw we were getting it. We knew Gunther and CM Punk were going to put on a freaking barn burner, and that's exactly what they did. it was basically Gunther just beating the crap out of CM Punk for about 20-25 minutes until CM Punk was finally able to get some capitalization, get back in it, had a couple close calls until you finally had the finish where CM Punk got Gunther up. And Gunther was busted open. And CM Punk hit Gunther with a GTS, pinned him 1, 2, 3. CM Punk was the new World Heavyweight Champion. And honestly, people were so excited, and I was very excited. I couldn't believe that I was watching it. Me and my girlfriend were sitting on the couch like, holy crap, he did it. And right when CM Punk was about to celebrate, whose music do you hear hit? Burn It Down. Seth frickin' Rollins comes out there to the ring, because this is after his injury on Saturday Night's Main Event, which at this point, everybody really thought it was a legit injury and Seth Rollins was going to be out for quite a while. He comes down to the stage on his crutches, and he's standing right there, and he's like talking to CM Punk, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Okay. He's just telling CM Punk, hold on to that title all you want for now, because when I'm healthy, I'm coming to take it back. Seth Rollins turns around, is about to walk out, but then all of a sudden he stops right there, the center of the stage, throws down the crutches, and starts walking towards the ring, slow as could be, gets in the ring, cashes in his Money in the Bank contract, and pins CM Punk for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. He did the heist of the century, and now he did the swerve of the century, and that is how you ended night 1 of SummerSlam. It was absolutely insane. Seth Rollins kind of breaking the freaking fourth wall, us not knowing what's real, what's not real anymore. It was absolutely amazing, and I think a perfect way to end SummerSlam night 1. Sure, a lot of people were pissed off CM Punk lost the title again. Some people get pissed off that this Seth Rollins CM Punk feud is still going on. I myself, I don't mind. I could watch those guys fight for the rest of their lives, or even for the rest of my life if I really wanted to. But like I said, SummerSlam night 1 was a blast, and it felt like part 1 of a big party of the summer. Now, SummerSlam night 2 was probably even better than night 1 was. Now, SummerSlam night 1 was amazing and fantastic. SummerSlam night 2 was probably even better. I will say that I was on a camping trip during SummerSlam night 2, and I was watching it just through my phone, but even through my phone, I had a great time watching it, and I had a great time with my friends sitting around a campfire. We were just watching wrestling as my phone's propped up on a log against a tree, and just one of the memories that I'll always remember. On night 2, they had matches. They had a triple threat for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship between Naomi, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky, which opened the show, I believe. Absolutely was an amazing match. Anytime you get Io Sky and Rhea Ripley in a match, it's going to be amazing. You throw Naomi in there, it's going to be even better. And all 3 of those women delivered in a fantastic match, with Naomi coming out with the victory on top. And then you went into Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa inside of a steel cage for the United States Championship, which I'm trying to remember. I think Solo Sikoa won the title. I believe Solo Sikoa won the championship. It was a pretty solid steel cage match. I'm not always the biggest fan of steel cage matches, but that one was actually pretty solid, and they beat the crap out of each other. And then we got Becky versus Lyra Valkyria in what was a no-holds-barred match. And those 2 women didn't hold back at all, and they put on a barn burner, with Becky Lynch defeating Lyra Valkyria, basically barring her off from competing for the Women's Intercontinental title anymore, ending their feud in a pretty good match. And then we got into the 6-way or 6-pack ladder match. It was a 6-way TLC match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Honestly, it was just a remake of the 6-way tag team match that we had months ago right after WrestleMania. It was fantastic. There was plenty of bumps between ladders, tables, chairs. We even saw Canada's freaking LeRae fall through a ladder, off of a ladder. It was insane. The Wyatt Six ended up coming out on top of that match, which I was very happy about. I really wanted the Wyatt Six to retain, which they did. And I couldn't have been more happy, especially because we just got a really damn good ladder match. And then I'm trying to think of other matches that were on the card. I can't really think of anything else that was really memorable on it other than those matches. So now we're going to get into our main event, which was John Cena versus Cody Rhodes in a last man standing match. And what can I not say about this match? I mean, this was what we wanted. This is what we wanted the entire retirement tour to be. Cody and Cena went out there. This is what we wanted WrestleMania 41 to be. Cody and Cena went out there and they beat the holy hell out of each other in not a last man standing. I'm sorry. It was a street fight match, not a last man standing. I think that was just something I wanted to see, but it almost felt like last man standing, but it was a street fight match. And they beat the crap out of each other. I mean, honestly, they used, I'm pretty sure they used the announcers' tables. They used regular tables. They fought around the arena. Cena took a bump on a solid steel barricade. It was just a hell of a match. And like I said, when I say it's what we wanted the retirement tour to be, it's the type of matches we wanted from John Cena. The previous night on SmackDown, or 2 nights ago on SmackDown before this pay-per-view, he became a good guy again. He said, I messed up. And Cody put him in a position to where he had to bring back the old and classic John Cena. And that's exactly what he did. From the second his music hit, the Titantron hit, Cena got the loudest pop of them all that I think we've ever heard. Of course, it was for the Undisputed Championship, Cena defending against Cody. And like I said, they had an amazing match. Cody ended up picking up the victory after a long match. They both hit each other with probably almost 6 finishers each. Cody kicked out of an Avalanche AA. Cody kicked out of an Avalanche AA. John Cena was kicking out of Crossroads, left, right, and sideways, pulling out Code Reds on the side of the ring, on ringside. And just a classic John Cena match, and really what we wanted WrestleMania 41 to be. After Cena lost, he's just kind of taking it all in, standing in the ring, and just looking around like, it's his last time at SummerSlam. It's a man that's there somewhere for the last time, and he's taking every single moment in. And as the crowd is chanting, "Thank you, Cena," he turns towards the rope. He's about to walk out of the ring, and then all of a sudden, Brock Lesnar's music hits, and he returns to the WWE. And as soon as he came out, during John Cena leaving, I'm like, he's here for John Cena. So he walks down to the ring, gets in the ring, picked up Cena, F5'd him, and just left him there in the ring. But honestly, Brock Lesnar returning was just an insane moment because a lot of people thought we were never going to see it, and it happened. I can't say after watching WrestlePalooza that it was the best call doing John Cena versus Brock Lesnar again, but it was surreal seeing the experience, at least seeing him return during John Cena's match, after John Cena's match, and just kind of putting his eyes back on Cena again. So, all in all, SummerSlam 2025 is probably my favorite pay-per-view of the year so far. And I know I forgot to include Evolution in this, and I apologize. I don't mean to disregard Evolution at all. I think Evolution was an amazing pay-per-view. Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky, that main event, was absolutely phenomenal. Naomi cashing in her Money in the Bank contract came out of nowhere with the right result as well. Her winning the the Women's World Heavyweight Championship was the perfect call, and I think that pay-per-view was also amazing. So I'm just going to throw it in there as an honorable mention. It definitely ranks higher than WrestlePalooza, and I would say probably Money in the Bank, and I would even say Backlash. Evolution was an awesome pay-per-view. I just forgot to put it on the list. But honestly, I hope you guys enjoyed my rankings of the past pay-per-views. I know I haven't made any videos the past few months. I'm going to try and be more consistent. There's been a lot of things going on in my life. Not bad things, all good things. And I've just been super duper busy. I'm working on currently uploading a gender reveal wrestling match that me and somebody did for my child that we are expecting. And honestly, it's a 28-minute match. And honestly, I think it was probably some of the better wrestling that I've ever done on YouTube. So once it's uploaded, I hope you guys give it a watch and, just check it out. I hope you guys like it. And I hope you guys like this video. like I said, I'm going to keep trying to upload more. If you guys keep coming around, I'll keep uploading more. So I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.